all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Welcome to Veterans Radio. I am Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today. We've got some great programs for you. I think you'll find very interesting. We always want to remind you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web. Veteransradio.org is our new URL, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee. We are very honored to have him on. He is a recipient of the Medal of Honor. Master Sergeant, welcome to Veterans Radio.
No, it's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to tell your story and promote some of the things you're working on. But it's sort of, let's go all the way back to the beginning. How did a nice kid like you from Oklahoma find himself in the military?
I came from a military family, so I was always very interested in service, and I was whatever movie was out in Hollywood glamorizing certain parts of it, that's what I was going to do. And then, I joined the National Guard in high school. It kind of lit the fire, and then, ended up in the Marine Corps. And, I got ADHD, and I can't stick at anything too long, and decided to run myself through the Army and see how that was.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating start here. It is what I wanted to talk about is you jump into the Oklahoma Army Guard. I think you're at 17 years old, and after graduating high school, move into the Marine Corps for 8 years. What were you chasing?
I was chasing an adventure, and I was chasing a challenge. So the National Guard was kind of a great way to get me started, and led me to validate my belief that I was destined to serve. But I was really looking for that deeper challenge and the adventure. The Oklahoma National Guard was neat, but as I got out of high school, I wanted to see other parts of the world, and the Marine Corps promised me that and delivered that.
I think a lot of youth kind of wonder if they measure up. And do I measure up to what my father's generation or my grandfather's generation was? Was that a little bit of this as, hey, the National Guard's okay, but do I measure up to the Marine Corps?
Yeah, definitely. There was a piece of that. My father was a Marine, and my grandfather before him was a Marine, and of course they both told me not to join. I took that as a personal insult. Like, they don't think I'm tough enough? I'm definitely going to show them.
Yeah, that's how that works, isn't it? Reverse psychology. Yeah. You did the Marine Corps for 8 years, and then in 2009, you joined the United States Army. But you joined the Army with something in mind, I suspect, right? Again, measuring up.
So, yeah, I joined the Army as an 18 X-ray contract, which means you go straight to Special Forces selection. I was, prepared for that as a Force Reconnaissance Marine. It was not super challenging to pass selection. The Q course caught me off guard, but I was a civilian for 12 hours. The afternoon where I was released from the Marine Corps, that next morning, I joined the Army.
It's an unusual and interesting and probably telling sequence of events that get you into the Army Special Forces. You have, I think, a total service record of about 24 years. Along the way, as I say, you got promoted to Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army, but also along the way, we're moving into the 2000s, and we're going to find ourselves post 9/11 with fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tell us a little bit more about your career.
So my very first deployment in the Marines, the nation transferred to a war footing. So I was having a cool adventure traveling around Asia, and then woke up on the morning of September 11th, 2001, and I was in the military at war. And the rest of my career, nearly every point of my career was spent fighting the war on terror, which was it was unique, gratifying. I'm glad I got to serve my country, and heartbreaking. I think at least once a year, I buried a friend in service to the country. So that was also you spend a piece of yourself doing that.
Well, your time in the Marines had you in, I believe, Iraq and Anbar province, if I've got the notes right here.
I did lived out of Al-Assad both trips, and had a direct action mission as a force reconnaissance Marine, attacking the mid-level members of Al Qaeda. So it was very rewarding work. A lot of times you kind of have to be subjective about how valuable your service is. Both of those trips, I did not have to really look around to see if it was valuable. Every night, I did something that was profoundly valuable and rewarding.
One of the things you've commented about, and we're talking to Medal of Honor recipient Earl Plumlee, you've talked about the diversity of people that you served with, both in the Marines and in the Army. Talk a little bit about why that's important to you.
Well, to me, as an American, I think that every citizen should get the chance to serve, and it's not always possible, and should want to serve. And I always thought it was really neat to see the full cross spectrum of the United States. And what I always said is after boot camp, the group of friends I had made there, when we put our civilian clothes to go out in town, it was a hilarious picture because we had cowboys out of Texas, farmers out of Kansas, surfers out of Southern California, and kids out of Boston and New York, and none of us dressed even remotely the same.
And you thought yourself, I ain't in Oklahoma anymore.
Yeah, I'm definitely not in Oklahoma anymore.
As you continue to serve and you were sent into Afghanistan, there's a particular battle in August of 2013 at Forward Operating Base Ghazni. Tell us what happened that day that sort of has certainly changed your life.
It's definitely changed my life. The Taliban decided to make an example out of our camp and do a spectacular attack. They're hoping to kill enough Americans that maybe we would decide to leave. Unluckily for them, my unit was having a change of command, so we had triple the number of Green Berets that would normally be on installation. And they initiated the attack with a 4,000-pound truck bomb, and 15 members of their unit with suicide vests and brand new Chinese rifles, stormed through the breach they'd made, and unfortunately found me and my friends waiting for them on the other side of that wall.
This is one of these things that I don't care how much you think about it, you can't practice this. It's reactive. And how did you and the other Green Berets, Special Forces soldiers react here?
Well, we knew we didn't know the nature of the attack, and we knew with a bomb that size, there was undoubtedly going to be injuries and possibly a fight. So we grabbed our stuff and moved to the point of conflict. And, unfortunately, the Taliban didn't tell us exactly what they were doing. So we parked right in the middle of them.
Yeah, and, another one of those brilliant decisions by who's driving the vehicle, right? Stop here.
Yeah, stop here. What are these guys doing? And then they all started shooting us up.
Part of this was the insurgents were dressed in Afghan National Army uniforms, if I understand it.
Yeah, so they'd tried attacks like this several times, and they were always changing the techniques that they were using. And this one, they decided that they could never pass as American, but they definitely looked like Afghans. So they used that to get deep into the camp without being fired upon.
And let me just read from the Military Times article. Quote, without regard for his own safety, Staff Sergeant Plumlee hopped out of the vehicle using his body to protect its driver while drawing a sidearm. He fought off 2 attackers, was wounded by a detonating suicide vest before he could get to adequate cover. He killed 2 insurgents in his field of fire, but at least 8 were still firing on American forces. He left his position with only his pistol and advanced on the enemy alone, finally reaching a fellow soldier behind cover. After what must have seemed like hours under intense enemy fire, he and the other soldier, no longer alone, withdrew to join other American and coalition troops who were preparing a counterattack. End of quote. And both an American and a Polish soldier were killed in this insurgent attack, as it's reported. I'm not going to ask you to talk about this, Master Sergeant. It just sort of seems that I'll let the article and your action speak for itself. But coming out of that incident, you were awarded the Silver Star, and subsequently it was upgraded to the Medal of Honor and presented to you by President Joe Biden in December of 2021. Nobody goes into the military for the decorations, right?
That was never a big part of my plan. I was chasing the stuff that you would that makes your uniform look fancy, like jump wings and dive bubbles, and going for all the cool schools. But it was never my plan to get a Purple Heart or a Valor Award.
Yeah, nobody should seek the Purple Heart.
Yeah, if your plan is to get the Purple Heart, call me and let me talk you down. That is a terrible plan.
As time moved on, and as I said, the battle occurred in 2013, and 8 years later, the Silver Star gets upgraded to the Medal of Honor. This is, I think, most people don't understand is what a rigorous process getting an upgrade or getting the Medal of Honor being awarded to you is. Can you talk a little bit about that period of time where, hey, these other guys are talking about this should be upgraded, and your reaction to all of that?
So at first there was a ton of interest and scrutiny, and then the award got downgraded to the Silver Star, and I thought that would be the end of it. And especially as an E6, I remember being profoundly relieved that it got downgraded. I was terrified for the eventuality of having to wear the Medal of Honor. And the members of the Pentagon and the upper levels of the Army would call me from time to time, asking for clarification. Over the years, and I kind of got used to it, and it was about 6 months before I got the medal, the phone calls changed in nature, and they quit asking me about the battle or asking me for access to people for witness statements, and they started asking me what I was doing and where I was going to be, and that's when I started to kind of think that something was up. But honestly, I remember, pursuing my career as a Silver Star recipient, and the incredible scrutiny of the Medal of Honor was off of me, and I was just really happy to get back to work as a Green Beret and have my career.
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, that the Medal of Honor is sort of thrusted upon you, isn't it?
It is, and it's an incredibly humbling thing, and it's nerve-wracking. The rest of the time that I spent in uniform until now, you're scrutinized in a positive way, but everyone is always going to remember what you said and emulate your behavior, and that can be overwhelming.
There is a Medal of Honor award process review board. The first kind of look at it, the board said, hey, the guy's just doing his job. And it didn't, under that review, reach the level of a Medal of Honor. It was subsequently looked at again and moved up, upgraded to the Medal of Honor. You at some point get a call telling you it's been upgraded, and let's start working on coordination to meet the president and receive the award. Very few men will ever get a chance to go through that month or two where that's going on. Tell us what's going on during that period.
So I got a call from the president. He told me I was going to be getting the Medal of Honor, and spoke to me for kind of a long time. In my opinion, I don't know how long people usually get to talk to the president. But immediately after that, I talked to a woman from the Pentagon, and she was like, "Hey, this is still a tightly held thing. We don't want to tell anybody, but we also don't want you getting deployed or sent into a training environment where you won't be able to get reached, because the day was still not set after the president called me." And I told him, "Yep, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I got all that handled." And hung up on her, and then immediately deployed on what would be one of my last deployments.
Well, the logistics always work out, and there is a lot of logistics to get you, friends, family, members of the unit into Washington for this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we finally got warned, hey, you need to be in at the White House on this day, we had about 10 days, I think, to get it done. And the Army decided I needed to wear the new service uniform, the AGSU, and I didn't have it. And they had a piece of it that would fit me at somewhere at a base almost completely across the United States.
And let me say, you're not a small guy.
I'm not a small guy, and I got big feet apparently. But they put one together. My boots actually came in the evening before the ceremony, and the honor guard from Arlington, they took turns polishing my boots for me so that I could sleep. But the first time I ever put that uniform on was about an hour before I went to the White House.
Those are the little backroom things none of us see. But you do get to be in the back room and talk to the president a little bit before they open those doors and all the lights are on and the nerves really run. How was meeting the president? It's
amazing. Whether you voted for him or not, if you're meeting the president of the United States and you're not just awed, I challenge how patriotic you are. So it was really neat. The president and the first lady were, very gracious to us and treated my family like $1 million. And he was late because of an engagement. Obviously, the president's busy. And so we got to just kind of wander around the White House unsupervised for a few hours, which my daughter took full advantage of.
Yeah, she's got selfies and probably maybe a White House ashtray in her purse at that point.
Yeah. Well, this is a really neat sword. It's George Washington's sword. Put it down.
So I want to talk about, you used this word earlier, and so I'm going to bring it back to you. And you said, hey, I was terrified to wear the Medal of Honor. that continues to kind of roll around in your brain until it probably becomes a bigger deal. And when they finally put the medal on you, where were you in that process? Were you still terrified, asking yourself, do I measure up? Just like you asked yourself when you jumped into the Marines?
I still do. There's a Medal of Honor Society, and we have a convention at least once a year. And every time I walk into that room with the other recipients, it's always stunning to me that I belong in there with them. I think the medal, it's definitely one of those things. My actions in 2013 got me nominated for it, but you feel compelled to earn that thing every day.
One of the things, once you have been bestowed this honor, it's sort of like a knighthood, I think. Everybody looks at you differently, and I know that you were a former student athlete in high school. You have an opportunity to talk to a lot of young men and women because of this honor. Tell us how you wear this responsibility on a daily basis.
So I always try to be a good steward of the profession, the profession of arms. I served for 24 years and 11 months, and I was proud the day I put on the uniform, and I was just as proud the day I took it off. And I think the country is worth fighting for and worth sacrificing for. And the only thing I can do at this point is serve as a role model for people to emulate that behavior. I like to educate that you build the country doesn't build you, and you don't need a uniform to serve the country. So if something needs fixing, don't look around for somebody else to do it. Roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty, and solve the problem and make your country a better place.
Earl, one of the things I've seen you say in the press before is about the importance of a positive mentor. Can you elaborate on that, both in your own life, but as importantly for our younger generation?
A positive role model or mentor. You find somebody that you want to emulate, somebody that you want to be, and they've already made all the mistakes. They can explain how things work, what to expect, and how to do the job better. And a role model and a mentor, if they're genuine, should always want to see you surpass them. And once you get one, it's such a rewarding experience to be on either side of that relationship. And I always feel sad for somebody that never had a mentor to kind of help them figure out the best way to get to where they're going. And then for also, if you've mastered a profession and you really don't get to go hands-on with someone and make them the best person that they could be, that's its own reward that you're missing out on.
You've also made, and we're talking to Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, retired Medal of Honor recipient. You've also talked about the role the National Guard plays in bridging the gap between the military and civilian worlds. And in a time where patriotism seems to wane, recruiting seems to be down, talk to us about the importance of bridging that gap.
So, the National Guard is just such a great touch point for the federal government, the state government, and the civilian population. They truly are the bridge. When you see somebody in uniform, you kind of understand what they are. But a National Guardsman, that's somebody from your community that has chosen to take time out of their life to be there. And in Oklahoma, every time there's a national disaster, a tornado, one of the first things that happens is they activate the National Guard and get them out there to help those communities recover. And I think it's important. That's something that the country owes you, and that's something as a people we owe the country, is to be that person that says, I know it's not safe yet, but I'm going to go out there and make it a little bit better. We
want to thank Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, retired from the United States Army, a Medal of Honor recipient, for taking some time to talk to Veterans Radio today.
Thank you so much.